Lunchtime in central Singapore. The perfect time for a little experiment.
Hi, ma'am. Hi. We're from Talking Point. We're getting some details for a story. Can I get your home address and name?
That's right, I'm getting my producer Kenneth to ask people for their home addresses. Yep, you heard me right. And I'll tell you just why in a short while. They said no.
Hey guys, hi. So I'm Kenneth from Talking Point. Let's just get some of your details. And it's basically just research for an upcoming story. So we just need your names, address, email.
Address as in?
Yeah, your home address.
She's actually filling out her address.
What is this for?
He stopped someone, but she seems to be asking him quite a few questions. I think this one's a bit more careful.
Okay, I think that's enough.
Hi, we're from the show Talking Point. So we're actually really doing a show about addresses. Can I ask you, did you just fill out your address? Yeah? You were giving him your address, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you felt comfortable doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think he seemed legitimate, so...
Yeah? He asked you for your address and you were willing to give it to him.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
I think it's because of my line of work. I deal with insurance, so I guess I collect details. I'm pretty open to giving details to.
Okay, and when he first asked you about it, did you not think, oh, why?
I did. I actually questioned him.
Oh,
what is this about?
Okay, good that you asked questions. Okay, you didn't suspect that maybe he'll use your address for something else.
Well, writing halfway, yes, I did, but...
Oh, but you continue
But
writing.
not really.
Do you ever think about, giving your address to people? No?
No.
You don't think it's very dangerous?
It is dangerous,
Oh, yeah.
but
Okay.
I shouldn't have given it to him.
So out of the 20 people we approached, 12 of them actually gave us their address. But there were 3 or 4 who needed a bit of convincing. They asked a lot of questions before they were willing to part with their details.
In case you're wondering, no real addresses were harmed. I mean, actually collected in the making of this episode.
Now I can guess why someone might want to steal something like our bank account details, but our home address? So in this episode of Talking Point, I'll show you why you should never give out your home address without thinking twice.
Like many of us, Long Mei Yin didn't think much of filling up an address field, not especially when a favorite item's just a few taps away. But not anymore.
I'll be very wary about giving information. Right now, before I discard my parcel boxes, I will actually blank out all my information before I dispose.
So tell me what happened.
Okay, so basically, I actually bought a unit in this area 2 years ago.
Okay.
After a few months, I began receiving letters from government body and agencies addressing to a business, to a point that it was filling to a brim of my letterbox, no matter how much I cleared.
But the business wasn't actually at your address,
No,
right?
it wasn't.
All the transactions related to that company were
yes.
going to your address.
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of letters were they?
Letters of fines and also overdue payments. So subsequently, I also received litigation legal letters. So I think someone actually is suing the business for infringement. So I actually contacted the law firm. So the law firm was actually telling me that, you have to actually prove that you're not affiliated to this business.
But I guess from the business, legal, all the other points of view, this is the registered address of the company.
Yes.
And how did you feel about that?
I think surprised. I got a bit annoyed because after, I think it was a lot of hassle to contact all the different agencies to explain that I'm not affiliated to these businesses. So I feel that a lot of the burden of proof to prove that I'm not affiliated with the business actually lies with the homeowners.
So worst case scenario being someone who actually physically show up at your house. And how long did it take you to resolve this whole situation?
I tried contacting the business owner. So he actually took some time to actually replace my home address to another. But I wouldn't say it's fully resolved because subsequently there's a lot of mirror sites that began mirroring information of my address to this business into, I think, 20 or 30 mirror sites. There's still information relating to my home address on public website, which I'm still very uncomfortable about.
So I just did a quick Google search of Mei Yin's address and the company's name still shows up. And this is 2 years since she discovered her home address had been used by someone else.
How common is Mei Yin's experience? Jonathan Wong helps companies incorporate in Singapore, so he's familiar with the tactics businesses could use to get around legal obligations.
Hello, hey John.
For example, faking an address.
If you are faking it, it's probably because you want to avoid detection or avoid being reached out to by the government or the authorities.
Okay, we've learned from some individuals that actually it's really easy. Anybody can use my address and register a business, just like that.
Yeah, there's some gaps, I think, when you are incorporating a company.
Yeah.
They take the application and the information that you put in at face value.
So the onus is actually on the individual to provide truthful information.
Yes,
Right.
and that can always be abused by
Right.
the wrong people.
Isn't there anyone checking whether this business and its address is legit?
ACRA investigates and tries to verify the information
Okay.
upon incorporation. I think every year there are thousands of companies that are incorporated in Singapore. I would imagine that there will be limited resources to check every single company.
Okay. So should there be more checks and balances?
You can always argue that more can be done. From my personal experience, you don't really find that many companies being non-compliant in the first place.
So ironically, because it doesn't happen that often.
Yes, then maybe they are not diverting resources to deal with this.
So in Mei Yan's case, the business owner she reached out to did relent and agreed to change the address. But what if he had just ignored her? What could she do?
The first port of call still remains ACRA. ACRA has an enforcement team, and then they have the legislation to back them up, to compel the business owners to comply. There's indications that the company was being used for a sham. Potentially, everything in the company was then false. I think the police should get involved.
What happened to Mei Yin is rare. But as I'm about to find out, there's an increasingly more common reason why your home address could be at risk of being stolen.
Oh, hi.
Hey,
Would there happen to be any foreign workers living here?
no.
Supposedly, 5 foreign Chinese men are staying at this address.
Oh, hi.
Hey, hello.
Would there happen to be any foreign workers living here?
No.
So you are the one staying here?
I've been living here since 2009 with me, my wife, and my 2 daughters.
I see. Definitely nobody else.
Nobody else. I get the SMS
Yeah.
from my friend, which is happened to be my PSG member. He says, Zaidi, take a look at this link. Make sure that actually there's nobody actually using your address. The foreign worker actually is using her address, claim that she's staying at her place, but actually it's not. I also go into the MOM link that she gave me.
Okay.
So to my surprise, so it showed this.
Listed in the Manpower Ministry's online database were names of 5 foreign workers.
And you don't know any of these people?
No, I didn't do any registration or accept any foreign worker to actually stay in my house.
Wow. So what'd you do?
That's why I reported to the MOM. He said that they will do the investigation, not to get anybody to use my address for the registration of the foreign workers. So in the system, they show that actually my address here.
There are no work pass holders registered at this property, which is correct.
Yeah.
But when you first checked, they had all these names
Yes.
underneath that.
Yep.
How long did it take you to sort out the whole issue?
I think they took about 3 weeks. I don't know about this until somebody actually told me that need to check.
So if the other parent had not told you about this,
Yeah, then we don't know. That's why I try to viral it. Then they share, they post. So I receive a lot of feedback saying this. Hey, me too. I also getting the same this one.
are you still worried?
Yes, still worried. That's why me and my wife we decided to install the CCTV for our house.
Yeah.
Yes.
well,
Because we have 2 daughters, young daughter, so we scared anything happen. Example, they do any loan shark, if there's any vice activities or something like that.
okay.
Yeah.
Even though you have security, you're in a condo, there's several layers to get in, right?
But when they register into using your own address, and after you can just show to the security that actually it looks I'm staying here, then the security also can say, okay, you are you are the occupant of this place. then please go in. Even though you stay in the condo, then I know it is kind of private, but you know when people know your address, it's not nice.
According to Singapore's Manpower Ministry, there have been about 1,000 cases of false home address declarations a year since 2020. That's triple the numbers since 2017.
In December 2018, the Manpower Ministry launched this portal to encourage homeowners to check if there are any work pass holders registered under their address. So, if you suspect that your address might be misused, you can always head to this portal. You can also block your address from ever being used to register work pass holders. And since May last year, new addresses cannot be registered in the ministry's database unless homeowners give consent.
But what I want to know is, why do migrant workers or employers even need to use false addresses in the first place? I'm posing this question to Jaya Anilkumar, who investigates cases and issues involving foreign workers daily. She wants to meet me here.
Hi.
Hi.
Jaya.
Hi.
So, why have you asked me to meet you here?
Well, in this area, there are several migrant worker dormitories,
Okay.
such as the one that you see in front here.
Right.
Well, when we talk about the issue of false addresses and migrant worker housing, we have to address the issue of dorms, one of the main forms of housing for migrant workers in Singapore.
Okay, if they have dorms, why not just register the dormitory address?
Since the COVID pandemic has sort of tapered off, we have many more migrant workers coming into Singapore to service our infrastructure and construction projects. And what's happening is that employers who have an obligation to provide acceptable accommodation for migrant workers may not be able to find the space to house them in legal spaces, which is why they've been falsifying home addresses in order to meet the requirements of housing their migrant workers.
Oh, okay. So they need to have an address for them, but they don't really have an actual place to put them, so they just put any address.
Yes, the worker may have not been clued in on the fact that he may be staying somewhere where it's not been properly registered.
Shouldn't alarm bells ring when, the Ministry of Manpower sees a fancy condo linked to a migrant worker's name?
Well, the type of accommodation in and of itself may not ring kind of alarm bells, because all of these depends on rental prices and kind of locations. The rental price of a condo may be similar to that of an HDB, so it really doesn't matter that either way.
Right.
Who is really affected by this, of course, is the migrant workers, because for every false address that is being used, there are a group of workers that's being housed somewhere illegally or under conditions that that may not be sanitary, that may not be up to par, that may not be safe. So they are the real victims here.
We found out there are about 1,000 cases of this happening per year. Do you think there are even more?
There could be even more, because not everyone is aware of this trend, and with a lot more workers coming in recent months, and with even more workers set to come in, the numbers could even be higher.
And why is all this going unnoticed?
Homeowners wouldn't think that their addresses are misused unless there is some kind of a trigger. Maybe an enforcement officer comes to their home.
There's a reason why employers have to declare where the foreign workers they hire stay. It's to ensure that the workers live in appropriate conditions. There's also a limit to the number of tenants allowed to rent an HDB flat or private property.
So in a 3-room flat like this, 6 is the maximum number of tenants. But if I were an employer wanting to squeeze more of my employees into this unit, I would probably register some of them under random addresses in the hope that no one checks. The thing is, it's not hard to get hold of a random address. What's harder is finding the name linked to that address. And as I'm about to find out, once you have a name and a matching address, that unlocks the door to even more personal information.
There are some companies, they're in this business, the buying and selling of addresses.
You can find out where I live? I'm a bit worried. So we used to be able to find addresses from a phone and street directory, but these days you can find random addresses online. But without a corresponding name, those addresses aren't of much use.
When we were researching the story, Talking Point received a tip-off. Apparently, names and addresses can be bought. Ryan Ong has written several articles uncovering shady practices in the industry.
There's a whole market for this, the buying and selling of addresses, and it is something that property agents do actually use quite often.
Okay, but why buy it?
To get a sense of who owns the property, who's likely to be renting, who's likely to be selling. This is really what they're looking for, more so than just random names. It gives you a little bit of clues as to the buyer's profile. We can make certain estimates about your income range and so forth.
I see. And these companies that are selling this information, I mean, are they collecting it legally or?
There are some old school methods that they've used that are still kind of used nowadays.
Okay, like?
Have you ever done personality quizzes on the internet?
Yeah,
Or
okay.
On some sites, they ask you to fill in a quick dating profile. So if you're not careful, and you fill in your name and address on these things, you may not be aware that it's going to someone who may then later sell your information to someone else.
Right.
And of course, some of this is just accidentally disclosed. Sometimes on social media, we say things like, hey, I just bought a new, I just bought a new home, or I'm looking to rent out my room. And then once that information goes out, they're very quick to capture that.
Okay, so there's a market for addresses, with demand coming from willing buyers who need addresses and matching names. But as these guys who protect data for a living will tell you, you don't really need to buy these addresses from a middleman. They are readily available.
There are a lot of ways whereby you can purchase such property ownership information online. If I go to Agra BizFile, which is Singapore's business directory,
their home addresses, you can take a look.
Right. Oh, and so whoever is registered with the business, all their details will be here.
Correct.
And I can look at it even though I have nothing to do with the company.
Any individual with a SingPass login or business registered users with a CorpPass login can just purchase it for even less than $6.
Why is it so easy for me to access this information? Shouldn't it be private?
This is available for legitimate purposes like business due diligence and finding out the stakeholders behind businesses.
Oh, so in other words, if I wanted to go into business with this company, I want to know who's behind it, whether they're reputable or not. I see. Okay. Wow.
And another place is also the INIS by SLA, Singapore Land Authority.
Okay.
This is a portal that you can purchase land survey information, right, even property information.
So in this property ownership information, for example, will you be able to find out who is living at a certain property?
Who is the owner of the property? With the full name, you'll be able to find out more details.
And all this is totally legitimate, right?
Yes.
Nothing illegal about it.
Original usage, yes.
Okay, how else?
Let me show you.
Publicly available directories.
Where you can search the person's name to find out the person's address.
There's the people living in Singapore sorted by address. Oh, it's like the old phone directory,
Yes,
you know?
that's right.
And this is just one of the many directories available.
Okay. You can find out where I live?
Yes.
I'm a bit worried, but let's give it a try. So, if you put in my name there.
Okay, there are a few Stephen Chia's right in Singapore.
Thank goodness there's so many Stephen Chia's. Where are they getting these addresses from?
From leaked or hacked databases, from crawlers, right? They have scraped online information.
And what do you mean by data crawling and scraping?
So a data crawler or scraper is an online software tool or even a bot that automatically searches the internet and collects such information. One place that possibly a bot could collect from Carousel. There are a lot of individual sellers there. They will say, please do at this address, and they even put the block, right, of where they actually stay in Singapore.
Oh, so in a way, this captures all the publicly listed information.
Typically, it's where it's stored into a database, and example, the owner of this portal or directory uploads the information there.
Anything that is publicly available.
Yes.
I see. Wow, that's pretty scary. So in a way, I guess I'm partly responsible for why this is happening, right? It's partly my own fault for not being careful in how I put down my details, right?
Yes, definitely. And there's so many other ways as well. Let us show you.
Please, I want to know. So we're saying it's my own fault that I'm found online. How is that so?
Right? What you put out there, where you tag yourself, lucky draws target me. Give my name, email, and home address for delivery if I win. So if I willingly give my information, right, that's on me. Let's take a look at e-commerce platforms that you buy something from.
Yeah, online shopping, we all do that.
Yeah. And what do you have to put towards the end of the transaction?
Your address.
Most e-commerce platforms don't handle the end delivery themselves. They outsource it to last mile logistics service providers.
But they have a responsibility to also not resell my data to others, right?
Yes, they have to be compliant with the PDPA, Personal Data Protection Act in Singapore, right? But they also have a right to disclose it. So what exactly happens behind the scenes, who it gets shared to, right? Whether they properly dispose of it, right? It's quite unclear.
So what happens if I find out I'm, on several platforms? What can I do next?
You can contact the platform provider, right? Personal data is sensitive and you have a right for a request to take it down.
So removing our details is sort of a reactive approach. Is there something we can do to prevent our details from ending up there in the first place?
So when you're shopping online, instead of putting your real home addresses, you can actually put a PO box. They actually do auto forwarding address.
So it's a layer away, and in case of a breach or an unauthorized disclosure, they only know the PO address.
There we go. So I've been doing quite a lot of online shopping, and I'm considering getting one of these post office or PO boxes to receive my mail, my parcels. Now, depending on demand and location, that would cost me anywhere between 150 to 200 Singapore dollars each year. So that's one way I can be more vigilant about my home address. And now that I know how it can be used for malicious purposes, I think I'm gonna head home right now to check out that people directory to find out where my address might be lurking.